pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have a motion to open the meeting, please.
So made.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Turn your mic on.
Okay. In accordance with Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, extends the Governor's March 2nd, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of open meeting law until March 31st, 2025. This meeting will be conducted both in person and virtually via Google Meets. So we are on TV and Google Meets and everything else. All right, I have no comments at this time, and item number 2. Bill, I have the draft one. Is this any change from the draft?
Mr. Chairman, yes, on your desk is the final one.
No, I have,
There's two decisions.
there's 2 decisions, but you don't have the draft
Agenda.
agenda. Is the draft change, or is there another agenda?
I'm sorry, I did not print the agenda.
Okay, no problem. If no change, I'll just use the draft one.
The first item is the continued public hearing for the special permit, scenic road permit, stormwater permit for the 4 lots located on the east side of Page Street across from Ledgebrook Avenue, Assessor's Map 95, lots 13, 59, 60, and 61 in the residential suburban C RC zoning district. The applicant, Dimitri Deitch, 12 Post Office Square, Sharon, Mass. On behalf of the property owner, Able Realty LLC, 156 Farm Street, Dover, Mass. Requests a special permit under Section 6.4 for the non-permitted clearing of lots without approvals, a scenic road permit pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 15C, for the purpose of adding driveways on the 4 lots, which will require the removal and replacement of stone walls and vegetation within the town right-of-way, and a stormwater managed permit per Town Code Chapter 159.
Could I have the applicant or his representatives come up, please? Are they online?
I believe the applicant's engineer is here. I will let you know that you closed the hearing and directed me to write a set of conditions. You had a draft conditions, and the only thing that you wanted added, we actually met with the property owner, so the special conditions, everything else is pretty standard. We work with the property owner about, it says property owner number 1, Able Realty shall record the operation and maintenance plan. We had a long discussion with them about the wall and wanting it all built at the one time, or, we wanted the guarantee. And so after going round and round with them, we came up with a condition that the property owner, we're tying it to the property owner because they're selling these lots. Able Realty shall restore and rebuild the entire stone wall along the frontage for all 4 lots prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the first house, or a cash bond shall be deposited with the planning board. He talked about some timing issues with construction and accessing and utilities for the different lots.
So how are we going to determine the cash bond? How are we going to determine the amount of the cash bond?
We typically would look at, Craig and I look at bonds all the time. So we would look at their cost estimate. We would compare it with, what we're seeing with any of our kind of consulting engineers. And we typically add a inflation contingency to it. So we're pretty adept at dealing with the bonds on that.
Okay.
And so that's a change from what you saw. And then condition number 4, the owner may get sewer from the rear of the property or to the side rear of the property of, think, Lot 4. If they do that, then a significant impact of sewer extension would not happen. So what we're looking at is, so we talked about that the applicant shall mill and overlay 25 feet past the limits of all disturbed areas caused by the installation of utilities along Page Street. And it needs to be completed prior to the first house, or a cash bond be deposited with the engineering department. Sometimes the issue is that if they do it, and then there's engineer, DPW in the town we like to winter everything over a year, and so that might hold up an occupancy. And so for engineering reasons, for the integrity of the road, we may want it to go past that first occupancy, so it allows for some cash bonding of the thing.
Okay, but what was your explanation about the sewer? I understand that that's affecting this.
Well,
What's happening with the sewer?
Instead of saying mill and overlay the entire frontage, it's only mill and overlay with the disturbed area of the street. If they don't have to get the sewer, then they don't have to disturb a large portion. And it's only if they put in the utilities like gas and those sorts of things. And then they would only have to mill and overlay past 25 feet of any of the disturbed areas.
Right, but that's going to give us 4 separate sets of patches on the street.
So
The reason I was trying to go property line to property line was so we had a consistent road going down the street in that hill area.
yeah.
And that was the whole idea to us, so we didn't end up with patch, old patch, old patch. And that's what we've been consistent on that with sites, is what we're doing the sites, has been trying to mill and overlay a period of, from lot line to lot line.
Yeah, I think, I see what you're saying. We're going to have a whole bunch of different utility stubs in there. It may be that this developer only brings in the water if he's doing the sewer out the back. In that case, I really don't see the need to mill and overlay the whole.
But he said he had gas coming in also.
He's talked about providing propane.
Propane instead of breaking into the street to mill and overlay.
So, yeah, initially when they were running down a sewer extension across the whole frontage, and then, all these other services along the way, I think the mill and overlay makes complete sense. But if we're just doing a couple of services just for water, say, then we might not want to force them into a whole mill and overlay for the roadway.
And it allows for, it does allow for, allows for some flexibility.
I don't know, like I say, I just think what was presented to us and where we're going is, 2 different things. I understand if they're changing their mind and we only have 4 connections. Are those alongside connections or short side?
I'm
The
sorry.
water, is it the long side of the street or the short side of the street, do you know?
I think the water's on the opposite side, but the gas is close by.
So we're going to be cutting all the way across the street for the water, which is something that they have to have, is the water.
Yeah.
But it's going to be 25 feet on each side of the trench?
Yeah. And it may be that they can't even get the sewer out the back, and this is all a moot point anyway.
Right, but I say it's going to be 25 feet on each side of the trench? Is that what we're saying?
The water's on the short side, by the way, though. It's closer towards the property. The gas is further away.
All right, thank you.
So past the limits of the, so each patch is going to be at least 25 feet each way, so it's going to be 50-foot patch?
Yeah, that's not the intention. It's how it's reading now. We were thinking if they were running the sewer, you'd go from end to end and then 25 feet beyond that to, I don't want to, maybe we need to correct that.
I think, something's,
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is kind of a far cry from what we agreed to last meeting. Coming up with these changes last minute, I have an issue with.
because that's what you're reading now, which is saying each patch is going to be 50 feet wide.
Yeah, I can see where it reads that way now, if you take the sewer out of the equation.
Right, but I'm saying, but if you take the sewer out of the equation, then, if you leave the sewer in, then this is a moot point. But if you don't, if you take the sewer out,
Yeah.
what you're saying is now is going to have 4 50-foot wide patches And what's going to be, how many feet's going to be between them by the time you're said and done?
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
So I don't think they'll be 50 foot wide, though. They'll be shorter than that. They'll be closer towards 10 or 15, because if we don't, especially if we don't connect into gas, which are proposing propane.
I have a question. They talk about the sewer going out the back side of it. Now, is that one of the items that we have coming up before us tonight? They're looking for a driveway to be put in that?
No.
Okay.
I mean, if it's just going to be the water patches, then I would refer to the engineering details for the water patches in the street, which, I think is probably 10 feet wide, but, with the standard engineering details or whatever we've got.
Right, we wouldn't do a 50-foot wide water patch, so.
I understand, but that's what you're asking for here. I know where you went with it, but it's the way it's written is improper.
Instead of installation of utilities, should it say installation of
I mean, we need to
sewer
cover,
and gas?
we need to cover it because if we're going to have the sewer, if they're going to make the change to sewer and gas, we're going to want it milling over.
So instead of utilities, it should say sewer and gas?
It seems to me that they're looking for a cost-cutting measure so they can sell the lots without putting in the infrastructure. That's what I'm seeing here.
Well, the discussion that we had with the applicant, and they can talk about, is the way it was conditioned, he has to mill and overlay everything. If he provides the sewer from the back, then why would he need, if he's not providing sewer down the street, why would he does not need to mill and overlay the street?
Fine. Do we know that that's feasible?
It's feasible, but we don't know if it's achievable. He needs to have a legal deal with the property owner next door to make that happen, to allow that connection.
Yeah.
So then what I would do, because to me that would be a substantial change in the plans anyway. He come back before us with a modification. Why don't we just say right now that because of the plans we have, which is a sewer out to the street, a sewer out to cross, we're going to mill and overlay the entire lot. If he gets that permission to go out the back and he's going to change his utilities, then he can come back before us with a minor modification.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I think the condition here works. If we have sewer in the street, the way it's written works.
What's the width of Page Street at that location?
I don't know precisely, it's probably around 25, 26 feet.
Okay. I mean, what I'm looking to do is make sure that we cover the whole road from side to
Right,
side when we do that. That's all I'm trying to say.
So essentially, he could
So what I was saying is, the way it's presented to us right now is a sewer out the front. That's the plan we have. So the conditions should be based upon the plan that we have, which is we're going to mill and overlay the entire street from lot line to lot line, or 25 feet past any type of obstruction. Leave that the way it is in the decision, and not try to change it in the decision. If he makes a modification to the plan, he does what everybody else does, comes back before us, and we make the modification at that point.
Okay.
Okay?
The applicant's representatives and I think their attorney are on tonight.
Yes, I'm here, Bill, Attorney Lorraine Rossi. And I believe Alec is on as well.
Yep. I'm here as well. I think you guys not sure if you've been hearing me, but yep. Alec Trongers with Trongers Engineering.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that we're going to leave the decision the way that we had it. If you're going to change the sewer and not put it in the street, then there's going to be a modification to the drawings. You'll have to come back before us and we can modify anything at that point that may affect you changing the sewer to go out in a different direction.
So what you're saying, Bill, if I'm correct, what you're saying then is that it will stay the entire mill and overlay the entire Page Street. And then if in fact we do get this easement, which we actually don't need the easement. We've actually granted them an easement over our property. So it's more of a paperwork trail. If in fact it's feasible to do the sewer out the back, and that would be for lots 3 and 4. Lots 1 and 2 would still get the sewer from the connection across the street. Correct, Alec?
Yes, they have access. They can connect. They can tie into it without having an extension.
So right now, what I would say is you come back before us with a change of drawings, change of plan, when you have that modification done, and then that's a modification of drawing, we can discuss how the mill and overlay will go at that time. But I'm not going to make a blanket change in it right now without a new plan showing us what's happening.
So basically, you can get an approval on what you have proposed. If you do make a change, you have to come back for a minor modification.
Understood. And that's fine, because it's not going to change, I don't believe, Alec, right? For 1 and 2, what we're talking about is lots 3 and 4, which would be looking to go out the back, which would alleviate the need to bring the sewer down the entire street, as opposed to crossing over Page Street from the connection closest to lots 1 and 2.
Hi, this is Lois Conley. I live up the street there. My recollection, which admittedly is old, is that the sewer never went all the way down because Miss Gibson, who owned that property, refused to be linked to it. And I don't know where the line stops, but I think it doesn't stop very much beyond my property.
I believe it just stops right in front of Ledgebrook Road.
I'm surprised it goes down that far.
All right, so at this point in time, we need to modify this, or we're going to leave it the way that's written?
We feel that
work?
Craig feels that the condition still meets it.
As long as the sewer's going across the front, I think the condition as written works.
Yeah, we're going to be 25 feet beyond whatever they're doing.
Right.
The entire roadway.
Yeah.
Okay.
So do they have to wait for 1 year before they do the milling and then the final?
That's going to be an engineering decision based upon when they get the lots ready.
Based on the
Work is
depth,
done.
it's based on depth and fill. They could do flow fill, a lot of other things. Yeah, I'm practicing engineering right now.
All right. My concern is Page Street being a very busy street, and the volume of traffic, it's going to pound that down pretty good over the course of the years. It's going to be like a roller coaster ride until it gets finally settled in.
Yeah, so we'd have requirements for the temporary patch that goes initially in, and then there'd be, maintenance of that as it settles, if it does. see
And they'll be
significant-
responsible for that maintenance, not the town.
Yeah, the developer will.
All right.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay. Can I have a motion to accept the special permit for scenic road permit, stormwater management permit approvals on Page Street, 4 lots, case number SP 24005?
So made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You can sign it at the end, Bill. All right, is item 2 now the fire station? You can continue to public hearing? Item 3, I mean? You want to give me the updated
I can.
agenda?
Item 3, continued public hearing will be held by the Stoughton Planning Board in the Great Room, 3rd floor, 10 Pearl Street, on Thursday. Oh, actually, it's on Wednesday, August 28th at 6:30. The petition by the applicant, the town of Stoughton, 10 Pearl Street, Stoughton, Mass., represented by Dorr and Whittier Architects, 260 Merrimack Street, Newburyport, Mass., for site plan review under section 10.6 for the conversion of Fire Station Number 1 into the Stoughton Stoughton Fire Headquarters and Public Health, including associated infrastructure, site grading, and landscaping. The project is located at 30 Freeman Street, Assessor's Map 54, lots 287 in Stoughton Center District Core, continued from August 22nd.
Do Do you guys have any comments on where they are right now?
Check.
Bill, or
Do you want me, we met with the design team. We discussed different options. I think we were pretty much down to two things. One was, let me pull up the landscape plan is probably the easiest to look at. Let me pull that up.
the updated landscape plan?
Yes, the updated one. The two issues were one regarding screening of the generator. The design team is proposing a commercial grade cedar fence. And the detail is on the other thing. It's commercial grade 6x6. They're making it quite sturdy because of the potential height of approximately 8 feet to screen the generator. And it allows for some flexibility if, as we know, sometimes generators and equipment or equal might be a little larger than what the architect specs. So it allows for greater flexibility to rebuild a screen fence. The other issue really was from right down here where the handicap comes through and this sidewalk. One of the planning board members, Mr. Belleville, is not here today, talked about a cut through. What we did not realize is that this area that's shaded here is actually a ramp that actually has a handrail that is on it. And so the plan has been changed to provide the handrail to go all the way across the sidewalk area right here. And then behind it or in front of it, depending on how you look at it, we are then providing the same landscape treatment of the, let me get the name of it's a grass that it's this
The
switchgrass that's being used right here that has somewhat color and will grow up and provide somewhat of a barrier. So therefore, we really are not going to have the cut through anymore because we've got the landscaping and there's actually a handrail that acts as the barrier. So we felt that was a good option to direct the traffic.
So I understand that, and I got no issues with what's being proposed up front. My issue is more what's going on down by the generator. The generator was proposed to be 7 to 8 feet in height, if I remember correctly. And we talked about screening the entire thing with a brick wall that was similar to the building that we were going to do, which would have put a wall about 8 feet high. Now they've come back with a cedar fence that's only 6 feet high, which isn't going to even screen the entire thing. We've got nowhere else on the site do we have a cedar fence. I'm not sure what it ties into or looks at anything. So I'm just trying to see how we got from where we were, which would have kind of blended in with the building, to where we are now. I'm looking at page LP 501, transformer, wood fence at transformer.
Right.
And it says 6-foot high fence.
Yeah. That detail should have been plus or minus 8 feet. Yeah, come up.
Here we go with the screening again.
Yes. Good evening. Glenn Gallred, Dorn Whittier Architects. Good point, Mr. Chairman. I think what we would like to do in the bid documents is own that height variation, right, between the landscape scope on a project like this, which will be owned by the general contractor, as would the fencing. That makes it a little easier to change depending on the height of the generator that shows up. by a sub-bidder that we don't have as much control or purview over. And this speaks to the A, B, C are equal, right? Some of the generators could be 6 feet tall, some as tall as 10 feet, which of course we'll avoid. But I would propose that we just simply own, to Bill's point, a plus or minus, so that when we get the cut sheet before it's bought, we can see the height of the generator and coordinate the screening, whether it's a fence or a wall, which is understandably another topic. We could address it with what we call an ASI, right, an architect supplemental information, and stipulate the precise height once we know what the height of the generator is.
That's fine, as long as it's stipulated somewhere in our documents, because I don't want somebody coming back to me later on, say, you only approve 6-foot height.
Right. No, fair enough. And
I
honestly,
mean, it's similar to what happened with another place, then.
understood.
Okay, I mean, I just, I just don't want the same type of statement, well, that's what you approved, and that's not what we approved, and we never even discussed the 6-foot height, so.
Right. And I'm sensitive to that. I want to make sure we get this right. But I guess I'm also curious to have the discussion about a masonry wall versus fencing.
I'm open to listening to you.
No. I would suggest the wood fencing
I know you would, that's what you put on the plans.
for a few reasons.
I already know reason to.
Cost isn't so much the big driver here, and if the OPM is on, I'm sure he cringed to hear me say that. But a small brick wall versus a commercial grade cedar fence on a project where we're gonna have a significant masonry scope, right? The entire outside of this building is going to be meticulously fluffed and buffed. So building an 8 or a 10-foot long wall, 6 or 8 feet high, is pretty simple for these guys. But I worry that it's not quite as flexible, and the chief and I were chatting about things like snow plowing, right? If they're pushing snow, and that's one of the few areas they can stockpile snow on the lot. A fence might offer a little more forgiveness.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to knock a fence over when you plow it. I mean, exactly what the whole statement is. I mean, if that's the case, if that's what you're going to use it for, first off, you're not supposed to be plowing in a generator, because if you're plowing in a generator, it freezes. Your generator's not going to be much good after a while, especially with salt sticking around it. So I really don't take that that's the area where you're going to stockpile snow. And it shouldn't be.
Ideally, yeah.
Okay, so I don't think that that's the ideal. And if you're going to plow into a wood fence, it's not going to be there very long.
Right. But again, to the point of the material, we really defer to the town. We will take your collective.
I just think when you're looking at it from the street and you're looking at a building that's all masonry, and there's no place else on the site except to put an 8-foot stockade fence, it's going to look like a grayed out 8-foot stockade fence in about 5 years and look like hell as opposed to everything else. It's just an opinion. The rest of the board can make their own statements, but that's just my opinion.
Got it.
One of the questions I have on the generator is, you're saying the fuel is going to be stored underneath the generator, correct? It's part of the system.
Yep.
Is there any type of catch pan under that to prevent, leaking into the
They basically build the fuel tank into the steel frame that supports the thing. So it's not underground, and it is a double wall tank.
Right, but is it that tank in essence sitting on the ground, or does that have to be raised up like 3 inches, 4 inches?
The tank pan itself, in most of the systems we see that with the fuel tank built into the base, the tank itself is up a number of inches, right? There's a couple of big structural steel rails that get bolted down to the pad, but the tank is sort of suspended in the middle of that frame cavity. But intentionally, right? You don't want the contact with the ground to create a moisture and corrosion problem.
Right, with all the salt from the snow that's being plowed up against it.
Now, this fence, if you were to go with cedar, would it be more decorative, like a horizontal?
Yes, not stockade.
Oh, okay.
Just basically a flat.
Oh, just a regular stockade.
I think the brick wall fits into it, the better fit. It's.
I'm open to suggestions of the board. We have a decision written, I guess, in both ways right now as far as the way it's written, Bill.
Mr. Chairman, I have one that says brick, and I have one that says cedar.
Which one of the conditions was that?
The one you have says cedar. That's the one that was emailed to you.
Mm-hmm.
The one for brick came after a conversation you and I had today.
I would go with brick. The building that you're tearing
Any
down, that
suggestions?
section.
No.
Well, I mean, it's a
comments.
thought.
No comment? Okay. Paul, any comments?
No, I think, well, actually, I'm leaning towards the brick myself.
Okay. Is there any other comments we have on any other parts of it then right now? Any issues with the front that Paul brought up last week?
Going back to the area where the handicap is, I brought up the issue where the bottom handicap spot, if you look the one closest to the street, right where your pointer was, that's going to be landscaped there?
It's going to be grass, so they
Right,
can
my
step
only-
in and out, just like any other parking lot.
Okay. Like I said, my only comment to that is if somebody was being transported there by a friend or whatever, they're now stepping onto grass.
You know, it's no different than any other parking lot that we approve on a commercial
Yeah,
site.
some would pull in, some will back in, depending on the
Yeah.
access, if it's a
Right.
van accessible.
Right. This is just like you're going to go to the grocery, anywhere else. In addition, we've added 4 on-street parking spaces that currently don't exist because they don't have those big drive bays anymore.
And the handrail that you said that comes down along it, is that going right to that front of that parking spot? Yes.
Yeah, it probably offset about 6 inches or so. So it'll be offset enough so that the overhang of a car doesn't hit it every single time.
What's the over-under and how long it's going to last?
Or make sure it's set back enough that the overhang doesn't hit it.
Okay.
Anybody other questions? So just as a roll call, do we want the fence or the brick?
I make a motion that we accept the brick as proposed.
So, well, it's not proposed. You need the order of conditions that you have that requires the standard order of conditions that requires 4 special conditions. One is that the plan shall be revised to indicate that the generator screen fencing shall be a brick screen wall to match existing building. And then recording the operation and maintenance plan. The applicant shall clean the entire drainage system at the end of the construction, and a final as-built shall be submitted.
Yeah, so the one we have here does not include that.
Correct.
That's just improving the plan, so yes.
So recycle pile, that one.
Correct.
As mentioned, I think nominate, propose that one.
Okay, so can I have a motion to accept the site plan approval order of conditions for 30 Freeman Street case SP 24-009 as revised per Bill's,
As revised for the brick wall.
as revised per
Brick
the
screen
brick
wall.
wall. Can I have a motion to that effect?
So made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we'll sign that at the end of the meeting.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I will read the next one, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 4, a new public hearing will be held on the petition by the applicant NSHE Stoughton, care of Akia North America Service LLC, represented by Heather Hopkins Dudko, 27 Old Meeting House Road, Auburn, Mass., for a sign special permit under section 2.7. The applicant is seeking to allow additional wall area, building wall area sign that exceeds section 2.6.6.5, which states no more than 2 signs shall be allowed for any one business or industrial establishment in the B or I districts. The project is located on 1 IKEA Way, Assessors Map 92, Lot 21 in the Industrial District.
Go ahead.
Press it on.
Oh, wait a
Bring
minute.
it close
Wait a minute.
to
No,
you.
you know
Okay,
what?
perfect.
One more thing, just to, can I have a motion to open that meeting, please?
So made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Heather Dudko, 27 Old Meeting House Road in Auburn, Mass. And I'm a sign consultant working with ID Associates and IKEA on this petition to the planning board. If you wouldn't mind, I'm just going to read the narrative that was included in the application packet because I feel it covers everything that we're requesting and gives a nice overview of the proposal. So we are requesting to install a wall sign on the front south elevation of the building where the entrance is located. The proposed sign is 350 square foot. It measures 14 by 25, and it's designed as a seasonal banner sign. So it's not designed as a business ID sign that says IKEA. It's an aluminum frame that would be permanently attached to the building, to the front facade, and digitally printed banners would be interchanged within the frame, probably on a quarterly basis. So it's if you picture something maybe like at a movie theater, that they have the aluminum frames and they interchange the posters when the movies change. So that's what the intent of the sign is. The sign is externally illuminated, so it will not be internally illuminated. We are requesting the special permit due to the number of signs that are on the building already. This would be an additional wall sign and due to the size. The south elevation currently has 6 signs on the elevation, totaling 1,350 square foot, which is 4%, about 4% of the facade. And if we add the 350 square foot sign to that facade, it still keeps the percentage of signage on that facade at 4%. So it would not increase the percentage of signage on the facade. In the packet, it also shows the signage that is on the right elevation, and there's some directional signage at the parking level. And all of that signage will remain as is. Section 6.2.41 of the zoning code only allows for 1 wall sign at 10%, maximum of 150. So a special permit is required by the planning board for this sign. IKEA feels that the addition of the sign will have no negative impact on traffic or pedestrian safety and no adverse impact on any municipal systems, nor does it impair the character or integrity of the district. And by adding the sign, customers can get to know about current activities and events and feel invited to visit IKEA by seeing commercial message expressed on the exterior of the building at a meeting point. The banners will be used for sending commercial messages with a focus on home furnishings. So it's a little different approach from other advertising measures, TV, internet, that type of promotional. It's more for when the customers are at the building. If there's a new special promotion, it might be something that will entice them or get them a little more excited about what's available for the promotions.
There is so what are you going to be putting on this? I mean, I'm still not fully clear what's going to go on the sign.
So it's promotional, sales, different products that are now available, different offerings. So it's not a identification sign. It's more to show what a special promotion might be having in the store.
There is, I'm trying to remember, Bill, there is some specific language about the types of signs and banners that can be used for advertising within our code, and I just don't remember the exact wording, how that's, and whether this would fall into that.
We looked at it, and Jack, we looked at it, and this is more of a sign because they want to put it up for, a banner is good for like 14 days and that sort of thing.
Oh, no, she's saying quarterly, so.
Huh?
Oh, right, so, okay.
This is an encased frame.
Right.
That they open up and that they then put this thing in and they leave it up for 2, 3, 4, it's a sign frame that they can then you
No,
know,
I understand that, but there wasn't the specifics of what can be put into the signs?
no.
The signs?
No, we do not. We do not regulate content. We're regulating square footage and area.
No, there is an item that regulates content that they can only advertise what they sell in the building itself or in the product. In other words, you can't have political signs on your buildings. You can't have other things that are non-regulated within the building. So when I ask about specifics about what she's putting on it, as far as, a couple of coming events, I mean, all those types, I don't know whether that falls into that purview, and that's why I'm asking the question.
It's advertising their products.
But that's not what she's saying.
Wow.
She's saying it's events, it's those types of things.
No, it won't be,
coming?
it'll be products or specials within the store. Special pricing, like 10% off, or new products that are introduced to the store. So it won't be, it's product related.
So it's sales events rather than
Correct.
social events or something like that.
Okay, because when it says it's being used for sending commercial messages with focus on home furniture, it doesn't say it's, I don't know. That's the reason I'm asking, just to clarify what the wording we have within our code does have some specific language about what you can and can't put on the signs as you're going forward.
Is this almost like the same idea as the old-fashioned, where they have the signs by the highway, whatever, and the guy would get up there and put up the sign, he'd paste it up there and it would sit there for...
Like a billboard.
Yeah, billboard, but it's a little bit small than that. Is it that type of idea?
Well, it's if the billboard were to say, sale January 1st through 31st at IKEA, 10% off such and such product.
Yeah, no,
It allows them to deal with, the way we looked at it, as more of their real-time marketing and sales.
And this isn't something that can be seen from the highway either.
No.
No, I'm going to let you,
Basically, a
if
regular
you,
customer that's going in and
Correct.
pick
This-
up on this.
I have been, due to two projects, this one and Costco, we've been frequenting, I've been up there more than I've been up there in quite a long time. And every time I'm going for one, I look at the other one at the same time. And you literally, you have to be in the rotary and almost out of the rotary and heading to IKEA to see this section of the building. That building, it literally, it's set back, and so that's where you can see it from. And from a staff standpoint, I don't think the code ever took into account a building that's 800 feet long and 50 feet tall. And, most sign codes I've dealt with in my 20 some odd years say no more than 10%, and it doesn't have that 150. And so the directional signs don't count, even though they're counting them towards their percent area. It's really, those don't count. To add this to the square footage of that building, in my opinion, is de minimis, and it's only visible to a patron that is going strictly to that business.
it's basically at ground level, from what I see here.
Right, and I can zoom in if you want on.
Do we have, just a quick question, Bill, what they presently have on the building right now would have required a special permit? So
It actually required, they probably have about 4 variances. If in the research we did, there's a variance for this was done prior to the code change, and I think there's 3 or 4 sign variances that are.
So they already have variances?
They have variances for all of this stuff, and we've decided to make it really special permits now. The code has changed to give you a little more latitude. So, and obviously, we're recommending, approval subject to the conditions that we submitted to you.
What would prevent them from going to an electronic sign?
Well, we had this conversation, and they initially said about I advised them to just apply for an electronic sign, and I told them that you should, my opinion is, when you come before the planning board, you should ask for your Christmas list, because they can only, they're only going to say no and ratchet it down. I advise them to, ask for ask for an electronic sign, and for some reason they've chosen not to do that. I think IKEA may have been scared that they wouldn't have gotten it approved, and so they're going to spend more money and more time when they want to come back with an electronic sign, which I see no point. If they wanted an electronic sign, I would be recommending the same thing. I would be recommending approval. I see no difference.
No, and the only thing with electronic signs is we've had a couple of issues in town with the types of electronic signs and the way that they've been put up. This wouldn't fall into that category
No,
because
it
it's
wouldn't.
out of the way, but we have had previous
Correct.
issues with electronic
Yes,
signs.
and I know we have, but in this
Glare
particular,
and so forth,
yeah,
Yeah.
and you regulate the electronic signs in that they're not flashing every 5 and 10 seconds and those sorts of things. In this particular case, I see no difference in having this an electronic sign or whatnot, but for some reason, I don't know. I think they were, even though I told them to do it, I think they were too gun shy to do it.
And it might be a cost issue. I mean, the digital boards are quite expensive, so this is a new, concept being introduced on the building. So it might be a matter of, let's see how it works, let's see how successful it is, let's see if it does what we want it to do with our customers that show up, and then maybe in time, they might consider changing it to digital. If not, I don't know.
Richard, any questions?
No questions.
Paul?
Now, you say it's going to be illuminated,
It's
Externally.
Externally.
Yeah.
right? So it's like the old billboard signs that.
Yeah.
Yeah, shining lights
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be open
Anything?
to the public. You may have somebody in the public.
Excuse me?
You may have someone in the public that may want to speak.
Is there anybody here that would like to talk about this or discuss this sign from the public? Come on up.
Sure. Yeah, well, that one.
Jim Kenny, 815 Turnpike Street. I understand what you're doing. Why don't you just have a QR code for these people when they come up to the store? They all have cell phones, and that's how everybody does it. This is a 350-foot sign.
350 square feet. It's
350
14
square
feet by 25.
That's a big sign.
It's a good size sign.
That's a big sign.
Have you seen the plans?
No,
No.
the sign is 25 feet by 14 feet.
That's what he
Okay.
said.
Okay.
It,
I'm just saying, there's other ways to do this from a marketing standpoint, and I personally don't understand it. People are going, if people are going to IKEA, they're going up there for a reason. They're already going into the store for something. And if they're trying to get deals to them, they can have a QR code when they walk in the door, boom, they flash their cell phone on it, and they'll know what the deals are. That's just my opinion. So thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. I do see that there are two representatives online from IKEA. I don't know if they're available to speak to this or would want to chime in.
Does anybody from IKEA want to speak at this point?
Sure. My name is Daniel Valencia. I'm the graphics leader for IKEA Stoughton. And the purpose of this banner, as our representative has explained, is just to let our customers know what we are offering. It's part of the customer experience. And it's also part of our concept for the stores of IKEA Global. And it's just to tell them, a nice way to say we have this going on and introduce our products to them, nothing else.
Just knowing that area, the local of where that sign is, you almost have to be on top of the building to see it. The sign would just seem kind of large for them to, for people to be able to see what's happening. They'd have to be so close up to the building at that point. They're either driving by or they're on a sidewalk walking by, and at 14 feet high and you're walking on a sidewalk, it just seems to be that the sign isn't going to be just talking to those people. I'm trying to figure out where you're going with this, with the size of it. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
No, it's the space that we have allow us to have, is initially the purpose is to have a large sign at this size to just lightly introduce whatever we have for displaying to our customers, whether it's in special that we have for, say, for example, we have new prices in the store. So we have a product that we just reduced.
No, I understand that. I'm just looking from a perspective of when you're coming to that building, you're either driving by that sign to go to the parking lot, which means you're not stopping long enough to see the sign, or you have to walk out of the parking lot and then come out to the front of the building to see the sign. It just seems to be a location that doesn't lend itself to people to see it, and if you're up that close looking at something 14 feet in the air, you're not going to really see what's happening. I'm just, if we're going to do something and make an exception for something, I'm trying to understand what that does at that location of the building. I've been to the building, so I know I kind of know where that is, and I'm not sure where it's what's doing with it.
Yeah, it's just, once again, this is just to start the customer experience, nothing else, and just lightly tell them in a quick glance what we have. The intention is not for people to stop there and take a look at the whole thing. The messages that we have, that we create for this particular banners are very direct and are meant to be used in these particular stages or scenarios.
But is it for the people that are driving by or for people that are walking up to the building? That's what I'm trying to understand, who you're gearing it to.
For both, nobody walks in this area. It's always people driving by.
It's only a drive-by.
That's what the building has, the sign has a specific size and it's large, and so that you can quickly see it and continue on your way into the store.
Yeah, there's no front door there, so.
Right, it would be kind of over, and they have to go back in the parking lot to get into that area. And I don't know why, that's what I'm trying to question, is why, what that sign is doing for anybody. That's my question.
It's for the people driving in their car.
Okay, but if you're sitting in the car, how are you going to look up 14 feet in the air?
It isn't 14 feet.
It's
14
once again, if you look at the location
14
of the
feet.
sign,
It's 14 foot, the sign itself, but it's not 14 foot high on the building.
No, I understand that, but the sign is 14 feet high. So, and it's up off the ground some distance, so let's just say it's up off the ground 3-4 feet. The top of the sign is 18 feet in the air. I'm trying to see what that does for a car going by. Or are you trying to get it big enough to be able to see all the way across to where the cars are coming into Costco's and Jordan's? I mean, is that the idea? You're trying to draw them with that sign?
pardon me?
He's saying is the intent, as the customers drive through the driveway, is the intent of the size of the sign to be visible for other, like from other areas in the.
I believe he's asking, is it visible from the rotary? I believe having gone through the site many times, that if you're at the rotary, you'll see some sort of color image or whatnot, and until you come up and you make the turn, right where you make the turn is where you would see it.
I understand. So you're not going to see the sign until you're on top of it or use it, and even if you can see it, I'm just trying to see, they're asking for an exception to our code, and I'm just trying to see what's the good reason for us as a board to give that exception. I know, Richard, you wanted to ask something.
Yes, the comments made by the chair, I agree with, in terms of visibility, readability as you drive to the the parking below the building. And from the previous speaker remotely, I think the marketing concepts could be more easily achieved by having that same signage within the building as they're going up the escalator, where they are really going to have to focus on something. Rather than clutter, you already have exceeded this bylaw by the number of signs. 2 are permitted, and 150 feet or 10%, whichever is less. I think
we've gone over backwards in terms of giving special conditions. This, I think, is breaking the camel's back. I'd sort of suggest reconsider and put it inside.
Okay. It's a special permit, so you'd have to have 4 votes. If you could have a choice, you could either have us vote on it tonight, or you could withdraw it and come back with something else. It's up to yourself. You vote on it tonight, you have 2 years before you could bring it back before us.
We need 4, right? Yeah. Is it possible to ask for continuance?
You can ask for continuance.
I'd respectfully ask for continuance versus withdrawing.
I would recommend to continue it to the October 10th meeting. The September 26th meeting is pretty booked. As you know, it takes 4 for a special permit. We have 1 member that's out. They can review the tape and the minutes and sign the Mullins rule waiver, and then they can participate in the future meeting.
Okay. I understand.
So can I have a motion to accept her continuance to October 10th?
Motion made to accept the continuance.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Is the next item a new public hearing, Bill?
Item number 5, a new public hearing will be held on the petition of the applicant Charles Dow, ORE Associate, Inc., 333 Washington Street, Suite 203-4, Boston, Mass., represented by Eric Dias, P.E., Strong Point Engineering Solutions of West Bridgewater, a site plan review under Section 10.6.2 for Phase 1 development of a paved driveway, associated infrastructure, and site grading. The project is located on the west side of Turnpike Street in the 1700 block, approximately 500 feet north of the intersection of Turnpike Street and Hawes Way. Assessors Map 96, Lot 2, in the Neighborhood Business NB zoning district.
Can I have a motion to open that meeting?
Motion open the hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good evening.
Good evening.
For the record, Eric Dias, registered professional engineer, Strong Point Engineering, representing ORE Associates for this project at what we are calling 0 Turnpike Street. But just by way of orientation, immediately to the south of us is Cabot Place, and to the north of us, probably a half or maybe a full mile, is the Canton Town line. So that's where we are here. Kind of an unusual one, right? This one is a site plan review that is solely for a driveway to what seems like nowhere right now. So let me explain. The owner of this property has had it on and off the market for quite some time. One of the considerations in trying to show this property is that access is difficult. There are wetlands along the frontage. You can't drive a truck in here, anything like that. So we kind of talked about it and thought about it with some forethought. And the idea is to get us access to the site in such a way that it's going to make sense for possible future development. So, Bill, if you can scroll to...
This is the new plan you gave me.
That's the new one. You don't... okay, so in...
I can go to the old one.
Oh, you do? Great. I think it's... We can just stay on the cover sheet for now. So what you see there, that is not a project that is being currently proposed. That is a concept that we've come up with for the lot that could be developed on that property at some point in the future. The whole point of it is to show that the area that's highlighted in red is what we're calling Phase 1. That is the entryway to what would be any, virtually, eventual project that would be developed here. So we're not, the whole point being there was a lot of purpose for what we're proposing and why we're proposing it at this time. It is a challenging site. We are well within the wetland no-touch disturb zone, just because of the wetland cover on the site. It comes to with the wetland itself is within, I think, 50 feet or so of the property boundary. Everything else is wet, so the only place we can get access is in that buffer zone. We have been to the Conservation Commission. It was reviewed for stormwater at that time by your assistant town engineer, and they did issue an order of conditions. So we are good with the Conservation Commission. The reason that we're here is that under your site plan review thresholds, we are over 1,000 square feet of impervious surface, and technically it's a change in access because there is no access, and we're proposing to create access. Other than that, the site was developed very intentionally. As I said, there's a lot of grade out there that's difficult to make up. It is a rather steep driveway that we're proposing. The reason is, as it stands now, between the existing grade and the proposed grade at the lowest point of the driveway, we've got about an 8-foot fill going on there. So it's reasonably substantial. With the buffer zone in the wetland resource area immediately to our north, we are grading down at a 3-to-1 slope, and we have a small retaining wall at the bottom of that slope to keep us off the wetland and give us some buffer through there. So really, it's been designed, in my opinion, into the landscape as much as we feasibly can. We did receive comments from the planning and engineering department that I'm sure you have in your packet. We have not addressed all of those at this time. We just simply didn't have time, but I have looked at them. I don't think there's anything in there that we can't come to an agreement on or address in some way, shape, or form. One thing that we have addressed, and it's only because I had a small preview of a comment from Craig, is that there was a grading issue. Originally, the runoff that would have come off of Cabot Place was going to get caught up behind a retaining wall that we had proposed along the southern property line. So I was actually able to regrade that before the meeting. That's the revised plan that Bill referred to. We have a very small area that we would have to regrade, and it makes that problem go away, basically. Also eliminates about 90% of the retaining wall along that line, so that's a positive. So really, those are the final points. I'm glad, Mr. Chairman, I'll go at your direction. I'm glad to go over any comments or that either staff or the board have.
I'd like to have your comments first, and then we can kind of go through our comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, so, we did take a look at this, for the Conservation Commission initially, had looked at the grading design, the stormwater design, and so forth. And as you know, it went through courses with the Conservation Commission, and they have been issued an order of conditions. And of course, once again, we looked at it for this application. As Eric had noted, that in the second look, I said, oh, wait a minute, we're going to trap water on this side adjacent to Cabot Place. So he's working on correcting that. But, other than that, the stormwater management portion of it is in line with what we require in town for a project of this nature. We had some comments in the comment letter about the design, particularly for the driveway, right? So some of the grades are rather steep, and I'd like to see if we can address that somehow and flatten those out, particularly as the driveway approaches Turnpike Street, right? So we've got some 9% slopes there. That's not really what's desirable as you're getting up to a major road. So we're hoping to address that. A couple of components on the site to note are that the way that this driveway is situated, it pitches to one side. As such, there is no curbing proposed on the upside of the driveway, and there is Cape Cod berm proposed along the lower side of the driveway, and we have recommended, as usual, vertical granite curbing at a minimum at the roundings at the intersection with Turnpike Street. And then, another thing that really should be thought about at this point in time is we have a development that's someday going to be constructed. There's other utilities that need to come in and service this property. So it might be a good time to either bring in, your other utilities and get them stubbed under the pavement, or leave the driveway in the binder course.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions. Is this actually going to get built right away, or is this something that you're at least trying to get in front of the people you're trying to sell to, saying we have a driveway to build? That's kind of my question.
That's exactly it. There is no, at this time, there is no immediate development proposal that's going to come before the board that I'm aware of. I have not heard anything about a potential PNS being signed at this point, or an off-taker for the property or anything like that. So I think we probably have a little while before we get to that point. To the point about bringing in the utilities, it's actually something that we considered. The reason we haven't proposed it at this time is because simply we don't know what's going to end up ultimately going back there. So it's very difficult to size, let's say, a water line that we need or something, and all we would probably end up doing is maximizing, and then if we don't need it, then we've put in more than we need for no real reason. The other thing too, with regard to sewer, and this does go back to the grade, and I would have to certainly investigate this a little bit further because it wasn't our purview at the time. Given the grade of that driveway and the low point, it's very possible that we end up having to have a small pump station to get septic out of sewage out of this site. And again, it would be very hard to size a force main or something like that at this point without knowing what goes there. But I do like, and I agree with Craig's notion that maybe we just don't top this yet.
So the intent is you are going to build it right away, but
the intention is that what is proposed now will be built as soon as we feasibly can. We're getting a little late in the season now, so it may not be till spring. But yes, the applicant wants to get this constructed so that he can basically further market the site, or at least start deciding on his next step should it not be sold at some point.
Is there a reason we're not putting a cul-de-sac in there? I mean, I understand looking the concept, you want the corner of the building, but
the only reason that we haven't proposed it is because we don't expect very much in the way of traffic on this site right now. We actually did propose a bollard and chain, locking chain across the front to prevent people from going back there doing illicit activity or or dumping or whatever they may do. Anybody who's going to go to that site right now is going to go in a residential vehicle, not a residential, but you know what I mean, a pickup truck at the most. And they're going to be escorted to the site, so there may be 2 vehicles at that time. The cul-de-sac, eventually, if something like what is shown there is ultimately built, it's just pavement that would be torn out. It's also additional impervious area that we would, in clearing, that we would be doing right now, that we don't necessarily need for this level of service. And that's why we didn't propose it. We were just trying to get something in there that's manageable, but at the same time, knowing that we're in a sensitive area, limit it as much as we reasonably can right now.
Any other comments?
The geometry at the end of the road, I think it's adequate to turn most vehicles around, particularly where, like Eric said, it'd be limited access with restrictions at the gate. So, I think a full-blown cul-de-sac is probably overkill for this particular project.
And there's no planning comments because this is strictly an engineering exercise at this point. Exactly. I'll have a lot more comments in the future when the thing actually comes in.
Absolutely.
Well, earlier I mentioned that they talked about those 4 lots on Page Street that actually abuts this property here. So
To the backside, yeah.
to the backside.
It does, yes.
And what happens is looking at CP-1, you have a residential C zoning at the back part of the property.
Yes.
So is this going to become an issue further down where the zoning has to be amended to accept, some type of construction there?
No, if you look at his drawing here, Eric fully acknowledges it, and the property is split zone right here. Mm-hmm. So any setback will be based off of right here from the residential C from that line to the parking. And nothing will be able to, no neighborhood commercial development would be able to be developed there. So from the residential C portion all the way up is pretty much, it's just excess open space for him, for the property.
It's actually tilted the wrong way, so you can't have runoff going into that.
Yeah, it kind of is, unfortunately. And just to Bill's point, and to your point, sir, I think, I think where you were going was, is it possible that it may be rezoned, that little triangle may be rezoned at some point? I don't necessarily know the answer to that. I suppose it's possible. Again, it's vote of town meeting. But if it ever was, you do still have a provision in your bylaw that requires, I believe it's a 30-foot undisturbed setback between any sort of commercial and residential. So at the very least, there would always be a screen between us and those 4 lots.
Okay.
Yeah, Peter, this is not one of our, ones that are split zone that we want to fix. This
is the reverse of it.
This I would just leave it alone. And by the way, as the planning board, you're the first gatekeeper for an application. It would most likely not be a planning board initiated rezone. It would be a citizen's petition, and it comes here. Well, it gets submitted to the clerk, then it comes here. You make your recommendations up or down, and then go to town meeting. And my understanding and my career is that when the planning board's opposed to it, town meeting usually just doesn't have the appetite for it.
Well, I was actually leaning more towards, do you see you coming back, seeing that if you could change that, that's all?
Oh, they could. They could always make a citizen's petition and come back before the board.
And I think at this point, from my perspective now, I don't believe the current owner has any intention of doing that. If he was to sell it, the eventual buyer certainly could do that, and the planning board could choose to support it or not. And I may or may not even be involved in the project at that point. I wouldn't know.
Okay. Just throwing it out there.
Sure, absolutely. It's a valid question.
Richard, anything?
I have concerns. I know that area, and Willow Street is a weird little street. You think you're in Randolph, but you're not. And my concern is we build that access road, and then that structure, based on that structure, there's over 100 parking spaces.
There are, yes.
The traffic in there, I mean, that potentially, conceptually. The traffic going into Willow Street, which is a residential street, mixed in with commercial, automobile repair shops, et cetera, I think it would be in bad taste for us to make this decision now, not knowing what could go there.
Well, I understand that. And if the only response that I would have is that obviously anything that was to be phase 2, right? Right now we're calling what we're proposing as a driveway phase 1. Phase 2, whatever it would ultimately be, would have to be something that A, fits within the zoning, B, it would have to come back to this board for review, and most importantly at that time, especially based on that comment, a full traffic analysis would be required. So let's say what I have shown there conceptually is what is ultimately approved. If whoever the applicant is at the time can't provide a traffic analysis that satisfies the board and proves that this is safe and acceptable, the board will deny it. So that may very well be, it's very possible that traffic is ultimately what limits the development of that site. So again, that what is shown there is strictly conceptual, and it's not committing the board to any further development of the site at this point.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, yeah, this decision is strictly for the driveway, and anything else, it does not lock the board into, and the only thing it locks the board into is what the access looks like.
He would install that at his own risk at that point.
Correct.
I understand.
He would, and just back to my point further, this is, as far as access, it's the only point that exists that we could actually access the site from, which is why it's located here. To that point, it is a bit far away from Willow Street, so in that regard, it's probably a good thing. But again, full traffic analysis up the road once there's a use is absolutely appropriate.
So this is similar to what
Kelly did with his property on 139. He brought a road in, proposed a bunch of different things, and has gone nowhere so far.
That is correct. In fact, I did that one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was done with a cul-de-sac because they were breaking it up into 3 separate lots at that time.
that is correct.
He's not breaking this up into 3 separate lots.
But this is a similar,
It's a similar situation, yes.
That is correct, yes.
The only difference here is the applicant desires to actually construct the portion of the driveway to make it seem more marketable, right? You get on the side of the road and you say, how am I going to get in there? This kind of makes it a little more tenable.
Right. Well, I think maybe the difference here is that the owner of this project's intention is to construct this no matter what. I believe the other project you referred to, they're likely waiting on an off-taker before they do something like that.
Correct.
And any decision's only good for 2 years with a 1-year extension. So if they don't construct it or pull the engineering permit, they're not vested on it.
I'm assuming at this time you're going to ask for a continuance?
Unless the board's willing to condition all kinds of stuff that Craig and I have to work on.
Did you say that the...
You wouldn't want me to vote on this right now?
Oh, not vote? Yeah, okay, all right, good enough.
Did you say that the driveway's 9% slope?
That driveway is at a 9% slope right now, yes. And again, the reason that was done was to limit fill, material import, and to limit the length of the slope and the height of the wall at the bottom of the slope because of the conservation area that's immediately adjacent. Craig and I have discussed some ideas how we might lessen some of those things, make it a little bit better. So that's certainly something that we'll be working on between now and the time we get back here.
So is October 10th the date that we want to?
Mr. Chairman, I guess I have a question for Eric.
Yes.
Eric, would you be able to have the revised submittal in by the beginning of the week of sometime beginning of the week of the 9th, 10th?
9th and 10th.
Because sometimes you're quite busy.
Sometimes I am quite busy, yes. I can definitely commit to making every effort to get that done. I want to say, yes, I can do it, but I do have a tendency to overcommit. But if we can pencil that in, what I can do is if I'm not going to make it, as soon as I know, I can request a further continuance.
Yeah. This is a very small, limited, isolated project. So, and it's relatively straightforward from an engineering standpoint if he can get the thing. We have a landscape bond request, and we have 3 continued items, and I know for a fact in talking, the 5th continued item is the Eagle Rock, and I know that they will not be able to submit their flexible development in time to meet this hearing date. So their subdivision won't be heard on that date. So if he can make it, I think you could put this on the 26th, and it wouldn't overburden the 26th.
Can I have a motion to accept his request for continuance to September 26th?
so made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
See you on the 26th.
Thank you very much. And unfortunately for you, I'm sticking around for a little while. I'm next too.
You like us that much, huh?
Was the next one the Franklin Sports one, Bill?
Yes.
A new public hearing will be held on the petition of the applicant and property owner, Franklin Sports, Inc., 17 Campanelli, Stoughton, Mass., for a site plan review under section 10.6 for the after-the-fact site plan for the sports court already installed and modification to the parking lot and loading area on the west of the building adjacent to the sports court with access to Turnpike Street. The property is located on the 17 Campanelli, Stoughton, Mass. 02072, Assessors Map 88, Lot 146, and an I industrial zoning district. Can I have the applicant and/or his representatives here?
Yes, for the record, Mr. Chairman, Eric Dias, registered professional engineer with Strong Point Engineering, here tonight representing Franklin Sports Incorporated. Michelle Brownlee, who I believe I see online, is with us tonight as well. She is in-house counsel for the applicant and attending for anything that we may have legal need for. So if it's okay with you, I'll proceed and give the lay of the land. So this is a project, again, as you read, they had constructed what you see there as a small sports court. It's a pickleball court. It was done within a wetland resource buffer. It was not done maliciously. I just believe it was a matter of them not knowing that they had to file for something like that. So they got an enforcement order from the Conservation Commission, and through that process, they found out that they had to also come to the board for site plan review because they crossed that 1,000 square foot impervious threshold by installing the court. So that's the point at which they got me involved in this. So when I got involved, I actually had a conversation with Bill and Craig and said, hey, we're under an enforcement order right now for this, but they have future plans. They kind of got stopped in their tracks from accomplishing everything they wanted to. So we all kind of agreed that it made sense to just get everything on the table that we're trying to accomplish now, rather than just satisfy that one item and come back again in 2 weeks, whatever it is. So all that said, yesterday, I did submit the plan that you see here. Now, I had it in the works in response to some comments that Bill and Craig had provided sort of informally. And then we did receive the comment letter, and I thought it was appropriate to just bring this. I don't expect that anybody's had a major opportunity to review it in depth, but it's pretty simple as far as what the changes are, and I can walk everybody through it. So what you see is the sports court that is there. When I first got involved, there was actually a proposal to add a second sports court. We have taken that off the table. That was not very much favored with the Conservation Commission, so that's out of there. What is the purpose of the sports court? So it is used not only for the employees for recreation, things like that, but they actually use it in the course of their business. As you know, they do sporting goods, so they use it for product testing. They use it for marketing as far as, taking photos of things, stuff like that. So it does have a business use as well as a recreational use as well. In addition to that, in this area of the site, we're proposing to repave the existing driveway, and we're actually expanding the driveway by a couple hundred square feet. And let me tell you why. You see on there, we've striped 3 parking spaces. That is a secondary benefit to what we're trying to accomplish. If you look at aerial photos of that area right now, what you'll see is the area that says existing concrete. Bill, if you go just to the left, a little more, right there. That existing concrete is their trash compactor. So when the trash truck comes in now to empty that trash compactor, he can't maneuver on the pavement that's there. So you see there's a bunch of ruts at the side of the pavement. It's not stable with vegetation. And that's all bad because we're in a wetland buffer. We're very close to the stream that's there. So the main intention of that additional paving in that location is to correct that issue. Secondarily, we get, hopefully, to have a couple extra parking spaces there to service the pickleball court. We have provided some stormwater management for that area where there is none now. Right now, there's no curb. Everything that hits that pavement just flows right off into the wetland, into the area that, as I mentioned, is not stabilized with vegetation, so it can create sedimentation and things like that. We're proposing a curb on that side, and we're directing that to just a small stormwater cell. All that really is a small stormwater depression. It's going to be lined with riprap. The intention is just to let anything that runs off of that pavement settle out in there before it eventually overtops and goes along its way to the wetland, which is its current place, discharge location. So we have done test pits all throughout the area. Not good soil conditions there. It is all fill material, historic fill material. It's been there since the place was built. And because of it, there's a high groundwater table and there's a lot of ledge. So it doesn't lend itself well to infiltration, things like that. So that's not currently happening in the existing state. Now, to offset those impervious additions, if we scroll all the way up, we're proposing to remove an equal-sized amount of pavement from the existing parking lot. Now, that is an area of the parking lot. I've looked back at historic photos all the way back to as far as I could reach. I can't find a car that was ever parked in any of those parking spaces. So they're not used. It's a practical matter. We don't need it. It offsets the pavement and therefore offsets the stormwater management concerns as far as peak rate attenuation and things like that. And the other small bonus that I think Concom's going to like is it's in the buffer zone. So that's going to come out. We're just going to loam and seed that area, turn it back into grass, and let it work. Other just small improvements that we're making is right now, and this is more of a Concom thing, but the back side of that building has a bunch of individual downspouts that all discharge overland and to the wetland, and they're creating some sort of erosion in various locations. So we're going to add a manifold, we're going to tie them together, we're going to release them at a controlled location where it's supposed to be released. Okay, so as far as just a couple of comments that I additionally wanted to touch on, let me start with sewer first. So one thing that we've talked about, sewer just went through Campanelli. We are on track to connect to sewer. Now, as this board knows, sewer is a separate permit. It is a separate application through the engineering department, and it will be reviewed by the engineering department. We had talked about including it in this plan set. The reason we haven't at this point is because on the turnpike side of the building, if you can scroll back down, Bill, on that side of the building, there is a septic system that comes out of that side. We are very likely going to have to pump that system somewhere. The nursing home to the south is proposing to put a force main in Turnpike. So while we haven't had an opportunity to solidify anything or to commit to anything, the idea is that we'd like to enter into negotiations with them to maybe partner up in that effort, share some costs. It'd be a better place for us to connect, things like that. And I've spoken with Craig about that possibility, and not to speak for the town, but I believe the town would find that acceptable if it was the case. So that will be ongoing. I just wanted to represent that we are thinking about that. That is working, although a separate process. And then, Bill, if you have the landscaping plan that I sent you, we do have a pretty thorough landscaping plan for this whole site. And one of the things that I want to call to your attention, and I know that this has come up and some board members have probably had a comment about this, on the Campanelli side, there is a mulch berm that's between the parking area and the pavement, and it's within the right-of-way. There is an idea at some point that sidewalks may be brought through that area and it would be in the way. So we propose to remove that entirely. That mulch berm will be taken out. That will be returned to its original grade, loamed and seeded, and left alone until the town decides to do whatever they may do through that area. So that's one thing.
Eric, it's
Yes, sir.
both. The berm is on the berm on Campanelli and the berm
And Turnpike.
on Turnpike.
I believe the berm on Turnpike has already been removed, but if it hasn't, we will make sure it has.
The plants,
Material's still there, yeah.
the berm material is there. The landscaping is not.
Okay, so we got to get that out of there. If you do know, one thing I want to call attention to is the area where your cursor is right now is to the right a little bit. That's an existing landscape bed. That is not a berm, and that has been there in aerial photos all the way back to 2018. I have not proposed to remove that because there's not a grade challenge there, and there's no shrubs within a good proximity to the actual edge of pavement. So if a sidewalk was ever to go through that area, it'd be routine grading and installation of the sidewalk. So since it was historic, we didn't feel it appropriate to remove it as part of this process.
So what we're saying is there's a curb that starts somewhere after that landscaping. It runs down behind, and that berm you want to remove?
There's actually no curb on
I thought
Turnpike.
you said you were removing the berm in that area.
The berm, it's an earthen berm.
Oh.
No, it's not a curb berm, it's an earthen berm. There's actually vertical granite curbing on Campanelli.
Okay.
And this is basically where you would build a sidewalk on the backside of the curb. The owners installed it because they were having problem with people walking on the grass there, wearing ruts in it, littering, things like that. So they installed the berm to keep people out of there, basically.
And now, Craig, you want it taken out? You want the berm taken out now?
Yes.
I do.
Yeah.
All right.
And it's coming out of there. It's on the landscape plan to come out.
If I go back to 2012, there was nothing but grass there. There was also rocks, big boulders and all that. That, as you know, or maybe not, Turnpike Street is 60 feet wide easement. The street itself is somewhere around 29 feet wide. So basically, it extends on both sides almost 15 feet either side. I have been trying to champion sidewalks on Turnpike Street since I moved here. And when I saw them put the berm there, I was the one that complained about it being in the right-of-way of the town.
Sure.
And I had the street view here from 2012, where, like I said, there was just rocks there.
Right. Completely understood. Like I said, the berm is noted on the plan to be removed, so that would be a condition of any site plan approval that happens here. It would have to be done.
Yeah. Now, when you say the berm, what part are you talking about? Are you talking all the way down to your property line?
Yeah, all the way. So there is some berm basically in front of the proposed planting on Turnpike is what we're saying. Is that correct?
Yes.
So there's a berm through there. I thought that berm was gone. It's not, but it's still in the notes to be removed. And then if you take the right onto Campanelli, there's a berm through that area currently. That's all going away. That's
Right.
gone.
But if you go back to the lower part of that drawing, and you go to the far right, right there, you'd put a berm there.
So actually, I have a photo of that from Google Street View, and you can pull up that Street View. That's not a berm.
I have it right here.
It's just on Google Street View. It's old.
What's that?
It's an old photo.
It's an old photo.
It is, but this portion hasn't changed.
2012, I have it drawn up right here.
If you go to 18, it's there. It shows up in 2018.
So that's when you started putting it there, because it wasn't there. It's still on town property. That's the bottom line.
Right.
Right, it is on town property. If we need to pull it out, we'll pull it out. My only point was that section has been there for 6 years. That's not one of the new berms, and there's not a significant grade there, nor is there any landscaping within the area that you would, or any plants within the area that you would build a sidewalk. So we thought it appropriate to leave it for the time being, since it's a historic condition. If the board feels otherwise, we'll have to do otherwise.
Well, what I see now, going up to 2021, it's all overgrowth there and all that. But if you go back to 2012, it wasn't there.
Right, I'm saying it was installed in 2018. It was not there in 2012, so it's at least 6 years old. 6 years old. So that came about long before any other thing that we're here for tonight. It was my only point, and that's the reason why we chose not to show that existing area is being removed. If the board is not comfortable with that, then we will have to do something else.
I think the goal is to get any unwanted fill out of our right-of-way so that when we do want to install sidewalks in this area, that the town is not burdened with additional costs to move material, build walls, and so forth. So I think that's the ultimate goal. So wherever we have berms that were built as landscape berms in the right-of-way, we appreciate the landscaping, right? But it's going to cost us in the future to put something in over there. So definitely what you have shown on Campanelli Parkway is good, and we'll take another look at that area between that driveway and the new landscaping there and see if the grade is significant or?
Yeah, and again, I do have a photo of it right here, and certainly we can take a look. The grade there, that mulch area may be a foot tall. The plants are set back about 7-9 feet from the edge of the pavement, which gives plenty of room to run a sidewalk. And there's a utility pole right there that needs to be removed if the sidewalk's going in as well.
Right.
So again, if we got to move it, we'll move it.
If you really want to get on my good side, put a sidewalk there.
I'd talk about it.
That didn't last long, right?
But yeah, I think, there was one more note that I just wanted to touch on in the staff comments about screening of the, that guy that we talked about, the compactor. Definitely open to the discussion. One thing I just wanted to note was that if you look at this plan, Bill, if you can just pan over a little bit, we are proposing along the roadway there to install some additional screening. So the only place you'd really be able to see that compactor is if you were looking right down the driveway. My thought was perhaps that would be adequate, and the only reason is that's a very big trash compactor, and we need to get access to it. So screening it might be a little challenging. Screening it beyond what we're proposing at the street. But again, open for discussion. Just wanted to bring that up for debate.
On that compactor, is that the style where they pull that one out?
Yep.
And then they drop another one, or do they take that, unload it, and then come back with that one? In other words, while it's not there, they can't use it, obviously, but.
I believe they swap it out. Michelle is on the call, and she's on site a lot more than I am. Michelle, can you clarify that as far as that compactor is concerned?
That is something I just don't know the answer to.
I believe it's a swap out.
Should.
I believe they swap it out. They take one out, put a new one in, and take off.
So they have to unload, pull that out, drop it?
I believe that's the case.
They have to do a shuffle there.
Yeah, I believe that's the case, yeah.
So they need a little bit more room there is what you're getting at to do the shuffle.
Yeah, I would just be concerned if we were to put something like a fence in front of it, it may just eventually get knocked down a bit. So my thought was that, with the screening from the street, perhaps that's is substantial enough to accomplish the intent that we're after here.
Spin the other way.
Just keep spinning.
Actually, other way, just pan to your right.
It's on the left of the screen.
Yep. So if you look at it from there, you can see the tip. If you go this way and look at it from a little back, that area where that grass is going to be planted as shown on that plan. So that will obscure a lot of the view down there. The only place you're really seeing it is if you look right down the driveway.
Can you go up of the road just a little bit, past that driveway? A little more, I wanted to look at that landscaping.
Yeah, so that's the area that we were just talking about as far as the landscaping that's within the right-of-way that's not the quote-unquote berm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's all. The berms that we were talking about, and you, sir, you saw, they were gigantic, right? The ones that we wanted to move, those were very large. This is nowhere near on that scope, which is why we thought it would be, acceptable to leave it where it is for the time being.
It looks flat from this angle. Yeah.
We'll go do it.
Yeah, we'll take another look
I
at
meet
that.
you out there or
I think,
something if we
yeah.
need to, it's fine.
I think we need to do something. I'm not sure. I understand your concern about the truck and how it's going to get in there. I think something should be done in that area.
And Mr. Chairman, I raised it because I know screening of these things are important to the board. I think putting a fence up is probably extremely problematic, and I don't think
I'm not disagreeing. I don't know what the other alternative is, but we can take, I think it's something we just drive by and take.
So, Eric, on your plan, you show an automated gate?
Yes.
A solid wall gate, like a solid fencing, so that acts as the screen across the access drive?
That's a great question. I'm not 100% sure what the intention for that gate is. Michelle, if you're on the call still, do you know what that gate is ultimately going to look like? Is that going to be something that's opaque so we can't see through it when it's closed?
I'm sorry that I don't have those details.
Okay.
Can't hear her.
She doesn't have that detail, but we can certainly find out what that's going to look like, and maybe that does the job.
You could potentially kill two birds with one stone with that one.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The other question I have is with the pickleball court, and it's for employees only, or, if they're trying to demonstrate equipment and all that. Those 4 parking spots there, what's to stop an employee from coming in like on a Saturday afternoon with one of his kids and play pickleball?
Sure, could happen.
And I'm not opposed to that.
Right. It would be by invitation only. There is going to be a gate there, which, I mean, an employee who knows the place could park in the other part of the parking lot and come through.
A long walk.
Or walk through, exactly. My understanding is that, that is going to be directed by management, and if you want to do something like that on an off hour, you're going to need permission. I know they're fencing the whole thing, and I imagine they're probably going to have a keypad to punch in for access, so they would know at what time people were going in and out and things like that. And again, beyond that, it is private property.
Yeah.
So nobody should be there who's not allowed to be there, basically.
The other question I have is the nursing home that's beside there. Yes, there's wooded area in between.
Yes.
Any type of sound barrier, because I see that other towns are having an issue with pickleball sounds.
Sure. That's something that we didn't really talk too much about. My initial response to that is that we are separated by the stream. And around that stream, there is a pretty good treed buffer there on both sides. So that will help deaden some sound for sure. I don't know that we've given the sound aspect of it a whole ton of thought beyond that.
This court has been here
at least a year.
I remember shortly after, I've been here 18 months, and shortly after I got hired, this became, the court was already here. So it's been here for over a
I
year.
just didn't know whether or not that has become an issue with your neighbor there.
I haven't heard anything, and like Bill said, it's been in some sort of operation for a while.
Nobody has been using the court.
Nobody has been using the
in
court.
an operation because
That's why there's no noise.
That's why there's no noise.
Because there was a violation, we haven't been using it until we got approval from the town. So there has been no use of the court. But I would also add that this is not like those courts that people tend to complain about, where there's people on them all day long, multiple courts making a lot of noise. I mean, I would expect this is probably only going to be in use, at lunchtime, or maybe for a little, a short period of time before or after work hours, or occasionally when athletes come by to do a demo. But I mean, this isn't a situation where the court is going to be in use all day long and people are going to be hearing the clicking noises of the balls being hit all day. It would be, for relatively brief periods of time.
Yeah, so basically this should be used during business hours only or very close to it.
Is there any lighting on it?
We're not proposing any lighting at this time, and I don't know of any plan to do so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you can see from the aerial,
That's the berm.
these are the
that-
big
yeah.
berms. Here and right here.
It's funny, if you look at the Google Earth, if you turn one way, they're there, and if you turn slightly the other way, they're not there.
Correct.
It's weird. But yes, that berm on Campanelli definitely is on the plan to go away, and I'm understanding that the berm on Turnpike is still there. I believe there was some discussion between the owner and someone, I believe it was maybe at DPW, and they said that they were satisfied with the location of the berm because it had been initially pulled back from the right-of-way. But I will get further information and we'll do what we have to do.
Just so I can't be all negative. I've lived in Stoughton for 35 years, gone past Franklin all the time, went to their Christmas or whatever their special they have and all that.
Yes.
They've always kept a very clean operation.
Yes.
The landscape has always looked nice. I actually like the new sign they put up.
Oh, great, great. Yeah, I will say, and as I'm sure you all know, longtime residents, family-owned business through several generations. They do a great job stewarding the land. I think, like I said, anything that they did that was a violation was just for not knowing better. They, as you said, with the Christmas stuff, they do a lot of things for the community in this area, things like that. So I definitely a good cornerstone in the community, and I'm sure that the board would be happy to help them as much as they can within reason.
So,
Anything else? Anybody from the public want to speak? If not, I'm assuming you're going to ask for a continuance again.
Yeah, I think we've got a few things to work on. Let's do that, and we will come back, hopefully, if possible, the next meeting, which I believe is the same one.
October
I don't know if this is going to be a much
10th.
longer conversation.
October 10th.
October 10th?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I have a motion to that effect, please?
motion to continue
Till October 10th.
to October 10th?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you all very much for your time. Appreciate it.
You 2 meetings in a row. A new public hearing will be held at the petition of the applicant and property owners of Absolute Builders, 932 Bedford Street, Abington, Mass., for a special permit under section 6.4 for the non-permitted clearing of lots without approval, a stormwater management permit per town code, chapter 159. The 4 lots are located on the west side of Turnpike Street between, I'm having 1860 and 930. Assessors map 79, lots 140, 141, 142, and 143, and residential suburban BRB zoning district. Can I have the applicant and/or his representatives up?
Good evening. For the record, my name is Scott Rogers from J.K. Home Engineering. The project before you today is for 4 residential house lots, if you will. The 4 lots themselves, relatively large piece of property between the 4 lots. It's over 19 acres. You can see on that plan, there's a large wetland in the back there, but the lots are severely oversized for what's required by the town bylaws. We did meet with staff, with engineering and planning, probably back in July, and at that point, we were proceeding with the final plans. We also received a letter from engineering and planning. I had about 12 comments that I can go through with you, if you don't mind. The changes we made, obviously, they got to the town today, so they haven't been reviewed at all. But so the new plan revisions, we added the existing tree line that was put onto the plans. It's about 210 feet back from Turnpike Street. Those are the new plans. Yep. Sometimes the overall one that shows all 4 lots will be helpful, and if you just kind of blow it up as we go, maybe. Okay, that's not helpful. There's the old one. We did provide a new landscape plan for all 4 of the house lots. Those would include some street trees, some foundation plantings for the homes, as well as basically some buffer plantings between each of the 4 houses to provide some, screening and privacy between each of the 4 dwellings. The original submission did include an operation and maintenance plan, and that will be, recorded along with the decision if and when that is received by the planning board. There was some test pits that were done on the property a while back, and those were added to the plan. So far, there's 1 for each lot. The infiltration of the roof runoff of the buildings themselves. Right now, we're showing some infiltration systems in the back of the house lots, if you will. So we've added some detail to those. We've added the fact that we gave, the size of them, how many chambers there are. We also looked at, and we did revise the locations of them. That was actually a good comment that was received. So we flipped them to the side of the dwellings, particularly because the idea that if somebody buys those house lots, they want to put a swimming pool in, we don't want to have those roof drain systems in the back there. We also added details to the plans for the actual infiltration systems themselves and also for the inspection ports. One of the other comments that we received, so the individual house lots have, as well as the infiltration system for the roof, they have bioretention areas at the front of the driveways, and we did do some revisions to the grading, particularly the front yard grading, so that the swale that comes around, in this case, the left-hand side of the house towards the street, the swale is directed more towards that bioretention area, so it's collecting more of the runoff from the lawn area, if you will, and does more of it, the job it was intended to do. We also added some labels to those bioretention areas that are shown on each individual house lot, so it's clear as to what the elevations are and the depth of those. And also, we have added detail sheets to each one will have a detail sheet that goes along with it. We added some bioretention area details, which shows basically, the depth of the bioretention area. And as you guys know from, I'm sure, other projects, those bioretention areas or rain gardens have a soil media in them, which is essentially, sand, gravel, peat moss, and that provides the ability for rainwater, stormwater runoff to basically filter through the soil media. And we also provided a profile that shows that bioretention area. And the last couple comments, one was that, when we apply for building permits, each of the lots will have a site plan, in this case, a site plan and a detail sheet before any building permit would be issued. That'll be submitted to the town. And then the last one was a comment from the Board of Health regarding the test pits. So there were test pits that were done. We added those to each of the plans. But I should note that, there's no septic systems here. We have town sewer, but the test pits themselves, because of the topography of this site, there's a pretty good hill that goes from Turnpike Street towards the back. Those test pits that were done pretty much in the location of the proposed houses do not reach the depth that's really required for, the bioretention area as an example. So we are going to propose that we will do test pits to be reviewed and witnessed by the town at a later date when that grade is brought down to a level that makes sense. So in other words, there's no sense doing test pits when you're 20 feet up in the air. That'll only go down 10 feet when you should be lowered down. So you understand what I mean. So those test pits will be done at a later date if acceptable. So with that, and by the way, our client, Carl from Absolute Builders is here as well, if we have any questions for him. So with that, I'd like to answer any questions you may have.
You're up, Craig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your presentation. We haven't had a chance to review the revised plans. I think they just came in, was it this morning?
Yeah, noontime or something.
Yeah. So what's up on the screen, we haven't really looked at yet. However, we do see that some of the revisions have taken place, so we'll give it another run through. It seems that they have addressed the comments that were outlined in the letter, and I feel like similar to the other project that we had over on Page Street, we noted that individual building permits will be required. I think I can envision a condition in an approval for this group of homes, similar to the other one, that requires the components that are shown on the plan, such as the bioretention basin, the roof recharge chambers and so forth, to address the stormwater management portion of the special permit application. Obviously, the other conservation landscape standards portion of it for the significant land clearing activities as taken place, the board needs to look at the proposed landscaping on the individual lots and along the frontage and determine if that's adequate for.
Has there been any Concom? Did they have to get involved in this at all?
No, you haven't been to Concom.
No, there is a wetland in the back, as I mentioned, but we are outside the 100-foot buffer, so there's no requirement to file with them.
So all the utilities for the gas, sewer, water will be going out onto Turnpike Street?
Yes.
So we're going to have the same type of conditions that we had there with the paving across the entire street coming down in order to cover that area?
Yeah, we'll look at the mill and overlay requirement on this one as well. I think the lots are a little more spaced out, and
Turnpike Street's got a lot of truck traffic on that street, and if we just start putting little things in it, we're going to be forever fixing it. and the town's gonna be responsible for it after he's done, so I think that if we're gonna put this many cuts this close together, we need to do something for a good area of that Turnpike Street for it to be covered.
And especially with the truck traffic too, because those trucks bang off of those patches and the residents could feel them in their house.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna require probably flow fill and that type of stuff to get.
Yeah, that's typical in the right-of-ways nowadays, so.
Right, but I would definitely see that we don't want to have all these individual patches. We're going to definitely want to go paving across that whole street and all the way down to that area, so.
If they're going to go with that, or we're going to go with that, I would like to see sidewalks in front of those houses, because IKEA ended up, they were forced to put sidewalks from Central Street all the way down to the residential area. Now, what happens is, they actually stopped a little bit short, as far as I'm concerned. But seeing that you're going to have 4 houses, were they 3, 4-bedroom houses?
Correct.
All right. You're planning on having children living there. They're going to end up having the school bus pick them up. They have to have some place to go. And if they're going to meet friends with the other houses, they're going to be walking on that. And it's just a matter of time before something drastic happens. So I would like to see in the conditions that in front of those 4 houses, again, it's patchwork on Turnpike Street, I get it. But if they're going to have to mill the street, they're going to have to repave it, they can do 4 feet on the side of it to put a sidewalk.
We can discuss that with the applicant.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I haven't really looked at the landscape plan. The plans, they show like one street tree, you know.
There was a pretty significant.
Well, they show one street tree, but then like they're showing these evergreen buffers in between the houses, which I'm fine. I really want to shy away from approving and getting into the business of individual landscaping and foundation plantings. I want to look at replanting, buffer screening, street trees, because I don't want to dictate, you know, what people do.
No, I understand.
So
What's happening out along Turnpike Street or what's happening between the lots, I agree.
However, I will show you the first lot. They're buffering all their houses. There's an existing house that is just along that's next to this lot 140. They show buffer screening. If you see this right here in between both, you know, and I know that the owner of this property, she's come in and talked with me. They need to provide screening that was there, you know, that.
Is that the house that as you're coming up Turnpike Street?
Yeah.
You're now looking into his beautiful picture window.
Huh? Yeah. Yeah. So they need to revise and provide screening. Fortunately, you know, this person's, you know, they sit on the upside, so they're not going to get drainage and everything going down to them. But, you know, they provided screening in between all of their houses, but not the existing house that's impacted. So I know that I would recommend that something in this area, it's on sheet C1, that you know, and I believe it needs to be a beefier screen because it's an existing residence, so you can look at dealing with it, than what they're going to put in between the ones that they build.
I have a question on that. Is it, and I'm not sure of where the property line falls.
It's right.
But where the house is that's already existing, would it be more beneficial to have the trees instead of down at the property line, have it up further, so the people that get the benefit of the screening by the...
That property line on the left is high.
Is it that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's like the highest point. So
Yeah,
you'd wanna-
this is the highest
you'd wanna
point,
screen along that
246, and then it drops down to 238. It drops down literally 10 feet between this person's property where they're going and the foundation of that house. Well,
We can look at doing some proposed screening in that area, to your point.
We seem to be using Google Maps a lot lately in these meetings, so I'm gonna go over to the. Where is this it? No.
Yeah, I think that, no, that's, I can't see, Bill.
It's Pleasant Street.
Here's Turnpike.
Yeah. It's
Turnpike and
860
Pleasant.
Turnpike Street, I think, if that'll help you.
It's south of there.
Huh?
It's south of there.
Where's the pump station?
So that, just to, while they're looking that up, that 11.5 acres that's back there, that's landlocked then at this point?
Correct, but one thing I'd like to point out is that, granted, there's a lot of wetlands back there, but the applicant, they could have built a subdivision road and gotten 7 lots or so out of it, and they decided to go with the Form As and get bigger lots, so I feel like they've kind of scaled back what they could do.
I do see
That's
that. That would have been a pretty substantial development back in there.
Is this the house?
I think that's the existing house, right?
Yes, that's your house. So you can see that this was, where's our pump station?
You just went by it, right there.
Our pump station's right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the number.
It's hard to see in this one, but.
Yeah. The pump station's right here. So you can see that this was fairly wooded, and they just went in and just, so.
Cleared it.
Huh?
Cleared it.
Yeah.
So again, my concern would be putting shrubs or bushes to a point that would benefit the house that's there, rather than down beside the house and then still looking over the top.
We have issues, requiring somebody to go on somebody else's land. That's our problem.
But if the people that live there were acceptable to it.
My personal opinion is if we planted trees similar to we did on the right side of Lot 1 and then 2, 3, 4, a similar fashion at the high point of that lot line, it would benefit them more than going on their property, and we'd be able to do it without permission, so.
Again, no, without walking down the area, without knowing exactly where the lot line is. Like I said, I know driving up Turnpike Street, I'm looking at their picture window, and, they had a beautiful view of trees. Now the trees are gone.
Understood, but they're not their trees, they were ours, so, and now they're gone, you're right, so.
What he's trying to say is they didn't cut down any trees on their property, so adding back trees on the property they did,
Yeah.
instead of adding it onto the other people's property. I can understand the point. It's just that he wants to put more trees, and I can see it, put more trees there between the house, the proposed house and the lot line of the people that are here. That's what we're looking to do.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's fine.
And so, and the owner is here, so they can obviously talk.
Speak to that.
Yes,
Is there
during
anybody-
public comment.
Any other comments from the board at this point?
No.
Is anybody from the public would like to make any comments? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. Jim Kenny, 815.
Please state your name for the record.
Jim Kenny, 815 Turnpike Street. These are single-family homes, correct?
Yes.
And what do you think the average square footage will be? I know you may not know. 2,000. 2,000? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just for the record, these are 2,000 square foot homes with 2-car garages, so these will be, I think, colonials, right, basically, so nice houses.
So they would actually be, and there's room for them to turn around on their property rather than backing out onto.
Right, there'll be a little, L-shaped turnaround, so you won't have to just back onto Turnpike Street, correct?
Could you
Go ahead, ma'am.
speak closer to the microphone, please?
Sure.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Ma'am.
Thank you.
Just press the button on the microphone in front of you. There you go.
Pull it close to you.
Hello.
There you go.
Okay. Hello. I'm Jennifer Wolf from 860 Turnpike Street, which is the immediately abutting property to the south of the area that was cleared. What you were asking about the property lines and the tree planting, the existing house is actually very close to the north property line. There's only a few yards distance between the walls of the building and the actual property line. There really isn't room to plant trees on our property to replace the, as you were saying, the view that was lost when the area was cleared.
Okay. Again, my concern was, here you had privacy, now the privacy has been depleted.
It's very different. There's more traffic noise, there's headlights. It's a very different experience living with those windows and without the woods, as I'm sure you can imagine.
So we are going to have him do some sort of buffer zone between your house and the existing house that's there right now.
I'm very glad to hear that.
Okay. Something built
I
up.
would also like to mention, as you were talking about the sidewalks, that there are two driveways to my house. The one on the north side is actually fairly steep and curved a bit to the road, and cutting in 4 feet for sidewalks to the driveway, I'm not sure that that would even be passable for the cars. It's quite steep going down into the road.
Yeah.
So I'd love to have sidewalks there, actually, but
He's talking about putting them strictly in front of these 4 lots.
the sidewalk that's existent goes to the property south from mine, stops at the edge of my property, and then there's no sidewalk going. So there would be, literally, I would be the only house on the street without a sidewalk if you did that.
Yeah.
Now, you have sidewalks, I'm looking here, across the street from you.
Across the street.
Right, and what happened was IKEA was not held accountable to bring the sidewalks down on that side of the street. Because if you go further up Turnpike Street, they did put sidewalks. I think they stopped right before your house.
Yes.
And they should have carried it, they should have been held accountable for that. And again, we can't hold them accountable for that, but as you heard me with the previous petition about trying to get sidewalks on the other section of Turnpike Street. So, like I said, with 4 houses there, children going to be there, they're going to need, if
It's
I
a
can do one
really
bite at a
busy
time.
street, and folks walk up and down all the time.
If you see
it would be
people
a good
jogging
thing.
there all the time,
Yeah.
But
This is the area.
Is that sidewalk on the opposite side? So there's sidewalks on the opposite side?
yeah, what happened was when IKEA came in, they put the sidewalks there because there were not any sidewalks.
I assume this is your driveway.
Yep, that's my car.
Yeah. Sidewalk ends right there in front of this house.
And if you go down further, there's sidewalks coming in off of the Pleasant Street Turnpike intersection, and they stop right at Maple Street.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else have anything else to say? Okay. I'm sorry. Yes, come on. Just hit that green button, hit the mic so you get a green. There you go.
Kyle Justberg, Absolute Builders. So I'm just trying to clarify what you're asking for on the sidewalk and the paving thing. So I mean, this is just 4 house lots. I'm just a small-time builder. If I have to put, sidewalks and repave roads, I mean, there's nothing left there, so.
Well, for example, you're taking 4 lots and you're going to cut at least 3 different trenches into the street for 4 lots. That's 12 trenches going down a pretty major street. So what we would normally do, and we did it with the previous applicant that had some similar type of situation, is we're requiring them to pave from one end of their site to the other end of their site to be able to cover over those trenches. Because if not, you're going to put those trenches in and we're just going to have basically a rocket board of holes going down the street. because there'll be no way of managing that going on. And so you're going to end up with 12 cuts into the street. We're asking to pave, mill and overlay that section of the street so that that becomes a consistent road at that point without all these ruts that are going to be in it. And that's a common thing that when any type of development comes before us, it's just a standard thing that we're doing with all of this because of what happens with all these cuts that are into the street.
Okay, and you want me to put a sidewalk on Turnpike?
The sidewalk, what I'm looking for,
I can't possibly afford to do it. You know, I mean, it's just 4 house lots.
But if you connect the 4 lots together, like I said, first of all, you're building 3, 4-bedroom homes.
Yep.
They're going to have children, right? The children are
likely.
Most likely, all right? A 75% chance.
Okay, right.
All right. So those children are going to have to come out to Turnpike Street to get on the school bus. Those children are also going to know from house A to B to C, whatever, they're going to be going from one to the other to the other. So in order for them to go from house to house, if they come out into Turnpike Street being a very, very busy street, you're putting them in jeopardy of being hit by a car or a truck. So, again, I'm just asking.
I mean, it's a Form A lot, that typical for, I mean, it's not typical. I haven't seen typical Form A lots having to put sidewalks in to public roads that are already existing, right? I mean,
there's been other developments that part of the.
I mean, I'm not IKEA, you know what I mean? I can't.
No, but that's why I'm not saying to go the whole length. I'm just saying in front of the 4 houses.
Yeah. And to what specification, like with granite curbing and, I mean, what?
That'd be up to engineering, but to me, I wouldn't.
I mean, there's a sidewalk on the other side that's just Cape Cod berm or something, right? I mean.
What's on the other side?
Actually, the other side is, they put granite curbing in at the very top, but they didn't carry it all the way down. So, I mean, would even an asphalt walkway, if you want to call it.
Is there any way we could bring the utilities in one trench and then maybe go across, maybe adjacent to the side, if we do a sidewalk type of thing, to avoid repaving everything, one cut and then bring the utilities down into the right of way?
I think you can look at maybe clustering them so that, if you situate your houses together, you can get 2 with a group of utility service connections to minimize.
We waited on this project till the moratorium ran up because Turnpike was relatively newly paved, and there was like a 7-year moratorium or 5-year, I forget. 5-year. So we kind of waited for that date because we couldn't get in at all. But I don't know. Is this kind of stuff we can discuss, I guess, or like ways to make it?
Yeah, I think between this meeting and the next, we can talk about a few different ideas to condense the utility cuts into a more compressed area so that you're not milling and overlaying it. You might be able to do that. And then I think we could look at the sidewalks and see what specs we're looking at. Right now, from what I'm seeing on the Google Earth images here, that it's really intermittent, so we've got sidewalk that comes up one side of the road and stops. You jump over to the other side of the road, it goes up a piece and then stops, and then we don't have any. And so I just want to kind of.
No, I get that. And it's a case
run
of
through
where
that a little bit and see
you also have.
How it would benefit best, that's all.
What's going to be coming into this is going to be probably before us. Avon is tying into the sewer line. So they're going to be cutting into that. And again, that's probably going to come before the planning board. And then they're going to be coming down probably beside a Kia Way, so they don't have to dig up a Kia Way. But if they come through the asphalt plant and then come up Turnpike Street, there's a point to holding them accountable for putting sidewalks there. So you start piecing things together, and next thing you know, you get a full sidewalk.
Yeah.
So, and it's, I'm looking at this as a big bagel. And what it is you eat a bagel, you don't stuff it in your mouth because you choke and die. If you take bites at a time, and this is a bite at a time, eventually we will have sidewalks on the full length of Turnpike Street. I'll probably be dead by then, but
So you're bringing water, gas, and sewer into each one of those houses, I'm assuming, right?
Correct.
I don't know, Craig, you can-
Absolutely water and sewer. Oh, I'm sorry. Absolutely water and sewer. I guess gas, the way they want, they're trying to eliminate fossil fuel from, building right now, so it's a good chance.
Get it in while you can get it, how's that?
It's a good chance we'll go electric on that part. So I'm not sure about gas.
But either way, water and sewer, you're going to be 10 feet apart on each one of those pipes at each building, so it's going to be 2 trenches, or it's going to be one large with an overlay of a certain distance anyway, because, like I said, I think we're going to end up with a whole bunch of ruts going down the street if we don't do something. The trucks coming in and out of Turnpike Street will definitely cause that to rut up. And it's
Well,
going to be...
if it's done properly, it shouldn't be a rut, but...
Excuse me?
If it's done properly,
I've never seen a trench in all the years I've been in construction, 40 years, that does not rut in a truck area. I haven't seen it. It's just, they all do the same thing. They all end up, boom, boom, boom.
with you making that comment, and I respect that, are you familiar how many trucks go up and down Turnpike Street in that section?
Oh, yeah, you can just stand there for a couple hours and...
1 hour, and count them. And again, they're all coming out.
I mean, if you look at, we paved, brand-new paving up at Turnpike and Page Street where all of IKEA is right now, and they just had to repave that whole area after, I don't know, 10, 12 years because of the amount of the truck damage on brand-new paving without even any trenches in those areas. So...
Also, Logistics Park is going to be built, and that'll add more trucks on Turnpike as well.
Right. Well, that's not supposed to, but
Yeah, they have their
theoretically.
own access road
They've
out
got
the back.
they're going up Page and going out the other way.
I take that back.
Right.
But I'm Bodwell and feel that is.
So I'm just, the reason I'm saying that is because we're trying to limit that issue all over town. It's just one of those things that becomes an issue down the road.
If the applicant wishes to continue, I would recommend at least to the October 10th meeting.
We'd like to have a continuance, please.
Okay, so can I have a motion to continue the meeting to October 10th, please?
So made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Can I have a motion to open up general business?
So made.
Second.
Do we have any meeting? We don't have any meeting minutes, right?
Oh, no minutes.
What?
Oh.
We don't have any meeting minutes? Okay. Do we have any other business, Bill?
Any other business?
Okay.
No, we have the 26th and then the 10th. I do want to point out that on the schedule that was sent to you, due to the multiple voting for the federal election and different things, early voting, we tentatively have a schedule for October 10th, and I booked the room for the 17th. That was on the sheet that I gave you. I don't know if the 17th is going to be needed, if something's on the 10th, it really can't get continued to the 17th of October. I will look to see if one of the, if they're doing voting here, we really can't use the Yantis room back here, and I don't know what the downstairs is, so it's a little precarious. We're not on our normal second and fourth.
Right.
Clearly, we're here on a Wednesday night.
That was my screw up. Sorry, everybody.
So, no, I have nothing else.
So our next meeting in September is when?
September 26th.
26.
September 26th, we do not have a meeting on the second Thursday in September. So we have the next scheduled meeting is September 26th and then October 10th. And they are looking like they are pretty full agendas. And there are several, there's some new applications that'll be coming in too.
Can I have a motion to close the meeting?
So made.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
You have stuff for